Hello and welcome to NTD News Today. Kevin Hogan here. Let's take a look at our top stories. President Biden seeking to build support for the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill, meeting with business and union leaders. But why do some progressive House Democrats oppose the bill? Mississippi's Attorney General asks the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade when the court hears an abortion case later this year. The state's earlier position was that their law wasn't in conflict with Roe. A Texas Democrat who walked out to prevent an election bill has returned to the state to negotiate. This while Pennsylvania Republicans give election reform another try after the governor's veto. And a 22-year-old British national is detained in Spain over a Twitter hack. The cyber attack compromised the accounts of several U.S. politicians last year, including then presidential candidate Joe Biden. President Biden drumming up support for the bipartisan $1.2 trillion infrastructure plan. He met with union and business leaders to discuss the bill. NTD's Jessica Beatty has more.
President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris met with business and union leaders Thursday at the White House. They're trying to build support for the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill.
The good news is that they've been here supporting what we're trying to get done on the infrastructure bill.
Biden says he thinks it's in the interest of both business and labor to get the bill passed.
It's not about energy versus environment. It's not about business versus labor. It's all about basically the race to the future.
Before the meeting, more than 120 business groups sent a letter to lawmakers urging them to pass the infrastructure bill. Biden said unions have also expressed support for the bill already. It comes a day after Senate Republicans blocked the bill from moving forward, in part because it isn't written yet.
Transit funding has not yet been resolved, and that's important. But if we can't resolve it, then we could leave that out. I hope not.
The spending package includes nearly $600 billion to repair physical infrastructure like roads and bridges and bolster broadband networks. But it's also facing pressure from some progressive House Democrats who say they won't support the Senate's bill as it is because it doesn't include many critical green reforms. 30 members of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee asked Democrat leaders in the House and Senate Wednesday to include provisions from the Invest in America Act. They write, "The Invest in America Act delivers meaningful, transformational policy solutions. For the first time, the bill provides resources for states and communities to tackle transportation greenhouse gas emissions." Meanwhile, the bipartisan group of senators working on the deal says they made significant progress and are close to a final agreement. Senator Schumer can schedule another vote as early as Monday. Jessica Beatty, NTD News.
Mississippi's Attorney General filed a new brief with the Supreme Court, significantly updating the state's position in an upcoming abortion case. The case could have a major impact on the nation's abortion laws. NTD's Colin Fredrickson has the story.
Mississippi Attorney General Lynn Fitch filed a new brief Thursday in a case that's heading to the Supreme Court later this year. She's now arguing that the court should overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade abortion case. Fitch says the Constitution never mentions abortion, and the conclusion that abortion is a constitutional right has no basis in text, structure, history, or tradition. The Supreme Court agreed to take the abortion case from Mississippi earlier this year. It involves a state law that prohibits abortion after 15 weeks of pregnancy. That law was struck down by a lower court in 2019. The state's initial position was that their law wasn't in conflict with Roe. Fitch's new filing challenges Roe directly. Jackson Women's Health Organization is the only abortion provider in Mississippi. They argue that the state's interest doesn't override the liberty and autonomy of a pregnant person over their own body. Abortion opponents are hopeful the court will overturn or limit Roe due to a new 6-3 conservative majority. The court will hear arguments for the case later this year. In D.C., Republicans in the House and Senate introduced a bill that would take away all federal funds to colleges that provide abortion drugs on campus. Senator Steve Daines announced the bill Wednesday. He says chemical abortions are dangerous. About 7% of women who have chemical abortions experience complications requiring surgery.
The Department of Justice sent letters to the governors of Michigan and Pennsylvania saying they won't be investigated for ordering nursing homes to accept residents who had tested positive for the CCP virus. Last year, under the Trump administration, the DOJ requested data from 4 states over ordering nursing homes to accept COVID-positive residents. New York and New Jersey are the other two states, and they apparently did not get letters saying they won't be investigated. A high percentage of deaths from the CCP virus in those states occurred in nursing homes. A 22-year-old British national has been detained in Spain. He's in custody over a Twitter hack that compromised the accounts of several U.S. politicians and other prominent figures last year. NTD's Andrew Thomas has the story.
Joseph James O'Connor appeared at Spain's High Court via video link from the southern town of Estepona. He was detained there on Wednesday and faces several charges in the U.S. O'Connor's lawyer, Immaculada Garcia Lopez, said her client opposes extradition and maintains his innocence. His mother, Sandra O'Connor, voiced concerns about proper procedure.
The FBI has come here, and I think that the pressure from the FBI traveling to Spain has influenced the judge in Madrid, and that shouldn't affect the judge. The judge should be looking at the evidence. He should be following the correct procedure.
The proceedings come just over a month after the death of software mogul John McAfee in a Spanish prison. He had been awaiting extradition to the United States. Authorities believe his death was a suicide. The July 2020 Twitter attack hijacked a variety of verified accounts, including those of then Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden and Tesla CEO Elon Musk. The accounts of former President Barack Obama, Kim Kardashian, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Benjamin Netanyahu, Jeff Bezos, Michael Bloomberg, and Kanye West were also hit.
Joseph is only 22. He's never been arrested. He's never been in trouble. He has very serious health problems. He has a very serious back injury, and his doctor has said that he shouldn't travel.
The High Court judge jailed O'Connor as a precautionary measure after taking into account his flight risk and the gravity of the case laid out by the U.S. Department of Justice. The court is expected to set an extradition hearing in the next few months. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
The chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, says the Taliban appears to have strategic momentum in Afghanistan. But the conflict could still go a number of different ways after the U.S. withdraws from the country next month. NTD's Don Ma has the story.
General Mark Milley says the Taliban appears to have the upper hand as U.S. forces withdraw because they're taking significant territory.
A significant amount of territory has been seized over the course of 6, 8, 10 months sort of thing by the Taliban. So strategic momentum appears to be sort of with the Taliban.
He says the Taliban is using that narrative to make it seem like their victory is inevitable. But that's a misunderstanding of the situation on the ground. He says U.S.-backed Afghan security forces are consolidating to protect major population centers. And most Afghans live in the provincial capitals or in Kabul.
You've got 34 provincial capitals in Afghanistan. None of them have been seized as of today by the Taliban.
Milley says there's a number of possible outcomes after the U.S. leaves Afghanistan.
There's a possibility of a negotiated outcome that's still out there. There's a possibility of a complete Taliban takeover or a possibility of any number of other scenarios, breakdowns, warlordism, all kinds of other scenarios that are out there. We're monitoring very closely. I don't think the end game is yet written.
Representatives from the Taliban and the Afghan government met last week in Qatar to discuss a settlement. A Taliban spokesman says they will stop fighting when a new government is negotiated, but that current Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani, must be removed.
It is necessary that all Afghans should have or should agree upon a new government.
He says the Taliban has agreed to allow women to keep many of the rights they have now, including working, going to school, and participating in politics. But they will have to wear a hijab. Some reports say women face harsh restrictions in territory controlled by the Taliban. U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin says the U.S. will continue to advise and provide funding to Afghan security forces. He says the U.S. will prevent international terrorists from operating in Afghanistan. Austin says they're also working on relocating Afghans who assisted U.S. forces because they will be at risk after the U.S. withdrawals.
These are friends of the United States who have done exemplary and courageous work. And we take our obligations to them and to their families very seriously.
Austin says U.S. forces will complete their withdrawal by the end of August. Don Ma, NTD News.
Health officials say 49 fully vaccinated people in New Jersey have died from the CCP virus. The deaths come from the pool of 4.8 million state residents who have gotten vaccinated. It makes the death rate slightly greater than 1 in 100,000 for fully vaccinated people. About half of them had pre-existing conditions like heart disease, diabetes, or cancer. Fully vaccinated refers to people who have gotten 2 doses of the Pfizer or Moderna vaccine or a single dose of the Johnson & Johnson shot, and that 2 weeks or more have elapsed since their final shot. Health officials say people who have gotten vaccinated are better equipped to fight off severe disease. As of July 12th, reporting from 48 states and territories shows nearly 5,500 people have been hospitalized or have died despite being fully vaccinated. Get vaccinated or get fired. This is the choice, the reality for many healthcare workers across the country. In New Jersey, 6 senior healthcare employees have been fired for refusing the vaccine. A pastor speaks with NTD about the toll this choice is taking on some workers.
RWJ Barnabas Health, one of the largest healthcare systems in New Jersey, told NBC News Wednesday that it's fired 6 senior staff members for refusing to get vaccinated. Over 150 healthcare workers at Houston Methodist Hospital in Texas likewise lost their job or quit last month after they refused the vaccine.
I'm heartbroken for the people that are really put between, hey, I either have to do what they're telling me to do with my body, or I have to lose my job.
Indiana pastor Micah Beckworth has had hundreds of people come to him for religious exemptions. He tells NTD that for those healthcare workers who don't trust the vaccine or want to get the shot, this choice is taking a large toll.
Nurses, doctors, administrative employees, they've come to me and they've said, I cannot sleep. I have not slept for 3 straight weeks since the mandate came out because I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't eat. I'm stressing out. I'm literally at the end of my rope. To see the amount of stress and pain and agony that these community hospitals or these health networks have put on people is heartbreaking.
Hospitals say they've imposed the mandate to ensure the safety of both staff and patients. Beckwith says most of the people he's spoken to aren't against vaccines, but he says they don't trust the COVID vaccines because they haven't been fully approved by the FDA, and the long-term ramifications of the vaccines are unknown. Beckworth says the worst part is that people feel they can't speak out or raise concerns.
This is the scary part in all of this, is that they're being bullied and they're being threatened with their jobs if they come out and even question this vaccine. I don't understand it. It's something I've never seen anything like this in our nation, where even the mere just questioning of the vaccine or questioning of the CDC or questioning of Dr. Fauci will get you fired. It will get you ostracized. It will get you put into a part of the population that says, oh, hey, you're going to be a less than citizen just because you're asking questions.
According to Becker's hospital review, around 30 healthcare systems nationwide have vaccine mandates. Over 100 of the Houston Methodist employees who refused the vaccine sued to overturn the requirement. The case was dismissed in federal court, but the group has appealed. This could become an important test case for a mostly untested area of law. Grace Coulter, NTD News.
Still to come, Milwaukee erupts in celebration as the Bucks parade their NBA championship trophy. The team hadn't won the finals in 50 years until Tuesday's victory. And thanks to the Supreme Court's NCAA ruling on student-athlete compensation, college towns are embracing a new world of business. Just ahead on NTD News. We have a triple update on election reform. In Texas, a Democrat who walked out has returned to negotiate on a voting measure. In Pennsylvania, Republicans are reintroducing an election overhaul bill after the governor vetoed it. And in Arizona, a single Republican has prevented the Senate from holding Maricopa County officials in contempt. Texas Representative Philip Cortez says his colleagues asked him to return from Washington to help improve the Republican-backed voting bill. About 60 state lawmakers fled to D.C. this month to break quorum. He said he left so the bill would not be approved as introduced. He went on to say, "I returned to Texas to try to engage in good faith dialogue about the aspects of the bill that I and others think are harmful." One other lawmaker reportedly returned to the Lone Star State for family reasons, but a party spokesperson told Fox News that no other members are expected to return soon. And over in Pennsylvania, House Republicans are making another attempt at passing a voting bill. It comes after Governor Tom Wolf vetoed it, but lately he signaled he supports including voter ID provisions. Plus, the bill would move up the deadline to register, limit the use of drop boxes, and allow mail-in ballots to be counted earlier. What's more, it would include about $3 million of state funding to create a Bureau of Election Audits. And in Arizona, the Senate is not holding Maricopa County officials in contempt for refusing to comply with election audit subpoenas. That's because a single Republican senator voted against the move. Senate President Karen Fann wrote on social media that Senator Paul Boyer agreed to the audit, but not to the resolution of contempt. Boyer responded, saying Fann hadn't said who she hired to do the audit. He continued, saying, "Had you told us it was an inexperienced partisan firm, I wouldn't have been the only one to object." Auditors found that 74,000 mail-in ballots had no record of being sent out and that 18,000 people voted but were removed from the voter rolls shortly after the election. Thousands of fans lined the streets of downtown Milwaukee to catch a glimpse of their beloved Bucks in a parade to celebrate the city's first NBA championship in half a century.
For Milwaukee, it's just everybody doesn't think a small market team can win or a small Milwaukee can get to that pinnacle of winning an NBA championship. And for us to win, I feel as if it's just an ultimate thrill.
I've been a Bucks fan since probably maybe 75, 74, 76. That's about the year I really got into them, and I'm a huge Bucks fan. And I got a chance to go to a couple games too, so it was great. I got to be here.
Living in the city of Milwaukee, there could be a lot of negative things happening, a lot of negative things highlighted, but just seeing people down at the Deer District, 65,000 people, right, the other day, just seeing all the positivity, folks coming together, it's amazing. It feels good. I feel it, right? It feels like a holiday almost.
Open-air buses and flatbed trucks carry Bucks stars, including Finals MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo and Drew Holiday, as well as the trophy they captured Tuesday night with a Game 6 victory over Phoenix. The team's attendance has invigorated a Midwestern city far from the league's bigger markets, like Los Angeles, Boston, or Miami, and has given the team its second ever NBA championship after their legendary 1971 team. Businesses in college towns have a brand new playing field. Many are looking to cash in on a new market for student athletes. They're now allowed to profit off their name, image, and likeness. Here's more.
Thanks to the Supreme Court's NCAA ruling on student-athlete compensation, college towns are embracing a new world of business. From mom-and-pop shops to startups, competition is already sparking.
But the businesses that we've talked to are mostly looking to learn more before they go full-court press on this.
The NCAA's decision to let student-athletes cash in arrived July 1st, with just few restrictions and guidelines. What used to be rulebook no-nos leading to ineligibility are now largely fair game. That's provided the athlete offers some type of service in exchange for compensation.
I would say it's a beautiful mess. It truly is. These are uncharted waters.
Some businesses have already reached endorsement deals. Others are trying to get a better handle on the market before diving in. Still, others are biding their time, taking a more cautious approach.
It's sort of the Wild West out here. I mean, I've heard tale of people pursuing all kinds of deals, from money payouts to free food for life.
Schools are now cobbling together their own policies or leaning on state laws. That's as compliance staffers scramble to ensure athletes follow the new regulations.
I think there's going to be a mix between massive brands throwing a lot of money in the beginning and small mom and pop shops trying to compete. But I think once the dust settles, you'll see the real brand deals coming out.
Former college athletes Nico Porcos and Jarrett Wagner have become mediators between the new school players and interested businesses.
Making sure this thing is maximized to the best of its ability, but also to make sure that the student athletes are focusing on the field and we're taking everything off their plate.
With revenue streams already in place, just how much will these new moves be worth? They could mean millions in the making for college town businesses and student athletes.
Coming up, favorable weather has allowed firefighters to begin taming the biggest wildfire in the country. It's one of the largest fires in Oregon history. And no vaccine, no drinking. That's what some bars around Los Angeles are saying. They are now playing tough with patrons amid a recent surge in COVID cases.
If you're like most of us, you're probably getting fed up with the nonsense that's going on in the banking system. Did you know that top U.S. banks have recently amended their depositor terms and conditions to include the words bank failure and what's required of you in 24 hours if, or should I say when, it happens? Don't get blindsided by your bank. Call GSI Exchange today to pick up your complimentary copy of the Bank Failure Survival Guide at 866-424-2382. We'll also send you the required format to file with your bank within 24 hours of their failure, which is now required by the top banks to avoid freezing of your funds. Yes, the top banks can now freeze your money. The world is in a strange place, and banks are constantly changing the rules. So stay on top of the current events that really matter by calling GSI Exchange and requesting your free guide at 866-424-2382.
Secure, the true solution for your digital privacy and security. Secure is a private and secure messaging and email solution hosted in Switzerland, using military-grade encryption and Swiss privacy laws, giving you true privacy. Secure is 100% private and does not collect or sell any of your personal data. Secure's Helix technology connects you securely to our Swiss servers without the need of a VPN, guaranteeing privacy and security for all your communications. Secure Messenger doesn't require your phone number or any personal data that hackers target. Chat by Invites allows you to chat privately and securely with anyone outside of your secure network without the need for others to download Secure. Secure Send offers you a private and secure way to email anyone outside of Secure. You won't find this level of privacy or security on any other email or instant messaging application. Visit secure.com. Regain and protect your privacy today.
In Los Angeles, some bar patrons are complaining. Some bars around the area are now requiring vaccination cards or proof of testing for entry following a recent pandemic-related spike.
As virus cases continue to rise, bars around the Los Angeles area are playing hardball with customers. Some 20 bars have already posted new entry rules outside, requiring patrons to show vaccination cards or recent proof of testing. Akbar in Silver Lake is one of them. It brought in the restrictions on Sunday.
This is a community, and we care about our patrons, we care about our customers, and we care about our staff, and we did it for safety.
The bartender said there hadn't been any pushback from clientele yet, but if they complain, they could always go to another bar. Many in Hollywood appear to support the idea.
Honestly, I feel like it's good that they're requiring proof, because I know a lot of people that go around without their masks on and they're not vaccinated and they just pretend to be vaccinated. And I think it's good for the safety of everyone.
Pharmacist Brittany Ray works at a hospital in Austin, Texas. She believes vaccination is important, not only for patients.
Every patient I have seen coming in with COVID is completely unvaccinated. So I think it is important that patients and everyone around is getting vaccinated.
But a man who presented himself as Naughty Bang says he isn't in favor.
But as far as bars requiring vaccination cards, I feel like, I feel like they're doing too much now.
And he isn't the only one. On customer feedback site Yelp, bad reviews bombarded bars that posted the entry rules online. One poster called the move medical apartheid or segregation.
Lower winds and better weather helped crews battle the nation's largest wildfire. They're using bulldozers and helicopters to put out the blaze in southern Oregon. The Bootleg Fire has grown to 624 square miles. That's over half the size of Rhode Island. But authorities say recent higher humidity and better conditions allowed crews to get a handle on the fire's spread. Part of the fire was also approaching an area burned out by a previous fire. It raises hope that a lack of things to burn could reduce its spread. The Oregon fire has ravaged the sparsely populated southern part of the state and had expanded up to 4 miles a day. Strong winds and critically dry weather helped push it along, but it is now more than 1/3 contained. The National Weather Service is embracing a new way to warn people about dangerous storms nearby. It's adding a damaged threat tag to its severe thunderstorm warnings. The NWS says the new tag will better convey the potential impact from thunderstorm winds and hail. The damage threat will come in 3 categories: destructive, considerable, and base. Base stands for baseline, which is the lowest of threat levels. Destructive is the most dangerous threat and indicates baseball-sized hail and 80-mile-an-hour winds may be present. It also means an area may be facing a life-threatening thunderstorm that could cause substantial damage. These threat levels may trigger a wireless emergency alert to appear on mobile devices. The new threat tag will start being used on July 28th. In some parts of the country, the perception of law enforcement changed dramatically in 2020, and not necessarily for the better. But the actual role of police to serve and protect hasn't changed. So how can communities and their law enforcement reconnect to bridge this gap and build better trust and safety at a local level? NTD's Kay Rubicek has the story.
What's up, everybody? We are live!
I'm gonna give you a moment to do whatever it is that you feel you need to do to calm your body.
Some of us are afraid to speak, and some of us are yelling.
The policing profession is one of the most scrutinized professions.
They are tough and they're focused and they have to keep this, or they think they have to keep this persona.
Every person, no matter what society or education, has an idea of what justice should be.
You have to put yourself in a very vulnerable state. See law enforcement as just people, not as a badge, not as a gun.
Wherever you are, make some noise!
Oh, that feels good. One more time. Oh, yeah. Policing. Just saying the word can cause fierce debate. But whether you take a side on that debate or not, law enforcement, safety and security are a fundamental part of our society. Yet law enforcement itself is perhaps the most scrutinized profession in our society. What are the challenges we face today, the law enforcers and the rest of us? Well, there seem to be many, but there are also many people who are facing those challenges head on. And we spoke with one community determined to make a difference.
Me being a retired police officer, I understand that 90% of your job is serving the community. It's that 10% of protecting the community that police officers really hone in on. But there's, we can do better. And being part of a community and growing the community from the inside out is what the Verde Eco School and the Hey Blue Initiative is all about.
Law enforcement, no matter how good they are, no matter how operationally sound they are, no matter how good they do what they do, they will never do their job to the best of their ability without that relationship, assistance, and trust from the community which they serve.
All of our projects start with this idea that we want to build your connection to this issue by building your empathy and understanding for those who are facing it first.
Appreciate that. I just need honesty, because after the cameras are gone, my question is, where's the interest? Because my kids need mentors.
Growing up in the community that I grew up in and seeing all of the negative interactions with law enforcement, I grew up wanting to be not just an attorney, but I wanted to be a prosecutor. I wanted to be one of the attorneys that helped to convict people that did wrong. And I wanted to be someone that did that job fairly and equitably.
Tune in to Life and Times every week on NTD Television.
Just ahead, online videos capture the horrifying flood in central China, including bodies carried out from a tunnel in tightly sealed foam boxes. We investigate how the disaster happened. And horrific scenes from the flood in central China, authorities made matters worse by releasing water from a reservoir without warning, and numerous subway passengers drowned inside the train cars. Stay tuned to find out more. Turning our attention to the deadly flooding in central China, shocking online videos captured piles of cars crammed inside a tunnel when water poured in. Bodies were later carried out in tightly sealed foam boxes. But just how did the disaster happen? Here's that report.
This is a tunnel, not a river.
But here's how the entrance of the tunnel looked like after ZhengZhou City in central China's Henan province flooded on Tuesday. These people were still breathing a few minutes ago. The tunnel has 6 lanes and is about 3 miles long. Reports say floodwater filled this giant underground tube in 5 minutes. Local residents say there are often traffic jams in this miles-long tunnel. What's worse, the floodwater poured in during rush hours. Someone did a simulation of the scenario and concluded that there is no way to survive, theoretically speaking. The casualties must be stunning. Another social media post emphasizes that there was a traffic jam when it flooded. A video shows drivers trying to escape the tunnel, but the toll booth were still stopping every car at the exit, asking them to scan in order to pay the tolls.
里头车全部都闷进去了，车里头都有司机啊，都有人呐，都是一家一家的呀。你说这咋弄啊？你说说。
A missing persons list from Chinese media, The Paper, tells the story of 2 14-year-old boys trapped in the tunnel. The report says they entered the tunnel on their electric bikes. One boy called his classmate, saying his bike was washed away. That was around 5 p.m. Tuesday afternoon. When their classmates got there some 15 minutes later, the water in the entrance of the tunnel already reached their knees, and the currents were too strong for them to get inside. A post says a lot of people were carried out. They were all sealed in white foam boxes, and onlookers were not allowed at the scene. Now the police are blocking the intersection around the entrance of the tunnel and keeping people hundreds of feet away.
肯定是吧？有啥事呗，对吧？大家心里知道，肯定是不想让大家看见的事情。
Reports keep pouring in on the deadly flood in a Chinese city of 10 million people. Disturbing online videos show flood victims lying lifelessly inside subway stations. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more on the story.
ZhengZhou residents are demanding to know why authorities failed to warn them of the impending flash flood. Some say authorities made the flood worse by releasing water from an upstream reservoir. At least a dozen drowned to death in a subway system that was submerged by floodwater. Hundreds were trapped in it for hours. Local authorities claim over 30 have died because of the flood, but NTD cannot independently verify the figure due to strict censorship. Chinese authorities so far are attributing the tragedy to nature, but some are questioning the role of human error in it. A look at the timeline may explain why. According to Chinese state media reports, authorities started to release water from the upstream reservoir at 10:30 Tuesday morning, July 20th. But they didn't alert downstream residents until 12 hours later at 10:30 p.m. During those 12 hours, the flood got worse in the city. But authorities kept the subway system running. Traffic was running as usual at 1:40 p.m., and the water started to flood the streets after 2 p.m. After 5 p.m., the city was pretty much submerged. And after 6 p.m., the subway cars were already flooded, with over 500 people trapped in them. Although it took authorities 12 hours to warn people about the flash flood, they were quick to crack down on warnings about the disaster. Late Tuesday night, numerous Chinese media and state agencies posted on social media, debunking what they called rumors about the reservoir. Some netizens claim the dike of the reservoir has been breached and it is releasing a massive amount of water. Authorities ask people not to believe in them and report on whoever is spreading the so-called rumor. But they did not mention that the reservoir is indeed releasing water downstream. An insider explains in a Chinese social media post that authorities' failure to act led to the disaster in the ZhengZhou subway system. In the post, the person said he or she works for the ZhengZhou subway, but didn't give his or her name. The person says leaders in every node of the subway system dared not to make decisions. To avoid taking the responsibility, operation leaders just let the trains run, even though they had already received a red-level flood warning. As a result, many rescue opportunities were wasted, and many trains were stuck in the tunnels. The insider says from when the floodwater submerged the rails till it eventually submerged the evacuation platforms, authorities on the spot had enough time to evacuate the passengers, but they didn't. And regular employees also didn't dare to take responsibilities. The insider says the coordinators on duty should have kept the trains out of the tunnels, but they didn't. The drivers should have opened the doors and let the passengers out, but they didn't. The insider writes with expletives, these people are all killers. Here she adds that everyone in the management system had their own calculations and wanted to assume nothing will go wrong, adding this is a man-made disaster. And a video taken inside the ZhengZhou subway is grabbing people's attention. Many netizens are asking what was happening. Just a warning, some viewers may find the following footage disturbing due to its graphic nature. This video has been circulating online since Tuesday. Several flood victims were seen lying on the ground, showing no signs of life. A person with a medical gown can be spotted, and on the ground there was a medical box and a pair of scissors. The victims had their eyes covered with medical gauze. A top member of the Republican Party says he checked with medical professionals in the U.S. on reviving drowning victims, and they all said that revival measures like CPR do not cause bleeding. Some netizens are questioning if the doctor was taking the cornea from the corpses. Others said it's not confirmed, and the blood could have come from suffocation. Cornea can be transplanted to patients with certain eye diseases. And organ transplantation has been a lucrative business in China for decades. NTD cannot verify these speculations. And while ZhengZhou City flooded, some online videos capture how residents are helping each other survive. The underground floor of a shopping center was flooded, and many people were stuck inside. Residents formed a team and used a rope to drag them out. A man used his own boat and went out to rescue other villagers. The caption in the video says he rescued more than 20 people. Cars are soaked in water, and people inside try to rescue themselves. A man was having trouble keeping himself afloat. Another man close by saw him and quickly swam over to rescue him. The video was taken at the entrance of the city's Jingguang Road tunnel.
Coming up, a young Brazilian girl is following in her father's footsteps. At just 4 years old, she's helping him remove plastic from the ocean and clean up the environment. And in the Czech Republic, canine actors are ruling the red carpet. Once rescue dogs themselves, they're now helping other dogs by starring in a new film, raising awareness about pet abuse. All that and more here on NTD News.
Peace comes from within. I am the light of the world. He who follows me shall not walk in darkness, but have the light of life. The human body is the temple of God, and religion is the experience of God within yourself. Are you ready to discover the truth within yourself? Book an appointment now at divinelight.com.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk. No matter what you're going through, I just want you to know I'm here. I've got your back. When you want to talk, I'm here.
The Mediterranean island of Cyprus getting creative as the pandemic wanes and Europe reopens for business. The island aims to attract new tourists with its millennia-old harbor. Here's more.
Amathatu Limassol is located in Cyprus's southern coast. As global interest in diving tourism increases, the Mediterranean island hopes to recoup its pandemic losses by opening up an underwater site, an ancient harbor for a new age called Amathus.
It's certainly unique to Cyprus and indeed the whole of the eastern Mediterranean due to its state of preservation and proximity to the shoreline.
French archaeologists believe the ancient harbor to be an incomplete military structure. Demetrius the Besieger, a mighty warrior king and successor of Alexander the Great, likely began building it 2,400 years ago. That was to thwart a possible invasion from rival ruler of Egypt, Ptolemy I, another of Alexander's heirs. Submerged stone slabs are now all that remain of three majestic piers.
The excavators suggest that the harbor was never completed because when Ptolemy reclaimed Cyprus, he didn't want a harbor lying across from his seat of power, which was Alexandria in Egypt.
Nearby the snorkeling site lays the Mariners' Compound. The above-ground site is a more traditional tourist destination. Accompanying the underwater views, ruins of bathhouses and temples there are accented by some still intact columns, a hallmark of Greek architecture.
For sure, it'll be tourists who are interested more about archaeology who would want to see the Amathunta harbor underwater with a mask and flippers.
Underwater tourism isn't entirely new to Cyprus. Divers have been frequenting the wreck of MS Zenobia for many years. The ship was a Swedish-built ferry that sank in the deeper waters of Lamaka in 1980. But Cyprus needs a new attraction, so now workers are preparing the site for visitors, and diving crews cleaning the vegetation will mark underwater routes for swimmers to follow.
Work to promote the harbor has just begun, and part of the undersea growth will be removed. This is taking place with permission from the scientific committees as well as the responsible governmental departments.
Tourism directly accounts for around 13% of Cyprus's economy. The island is hurting, as over 85% fewer visitors arrived in 2020 compared to 2019. Thankfully, Cyprus earned top marks for cleanest waters among all EU nations for the second year, a plus, as the shallow area of the ruins, while good for snorkeling, isn't home to much sea life.
Cyprus's top two markets, the UK and Russia, placed the island on their safe destination lists this month. The move has given hope that August will see a rebound for tourism after a quiet July. In Brazil, a 4-year-old girl spends her time collecting plastic from the ocean with her father, a miniature environmentalist acting as a model for us all. Here's more.
In Rio's Guanabara Bay, where more than 10 million people reside, one little girl spends her time protecting them all. 4-year-old Nina Gomez collects trash from the ocean with her father Ricardo, working to prevent marine disaster.
Hello, my name is Nina. I'm 4 years old and I collect plastic with my dad.
Together, they paddle out on their board, grabbing every piece of plastic they find, filling up their mesh bag. When asked why she cleans waste from the sea, this toddler has answers.
Why are you collecting plastic?
Because otherwise fish and turtles die.
According to the United Nations Environmental Program, every year 11 million tons of plastic are thrown into the ocean, killing thousands of marine animals.
From a young age, when she learned to speak, she would say that she did not understand why people could drink something and leave the rubbish on the beach.
Brazil's Chico Mendes Institute found more than 400 species of wildlife living in this bay area. Thousands of residents rely on these waters for their livelihoods through fishing. Nina's actions are inspiring the neighborhood.
The idea of having a person of her age drawing the attention of the media, bringing awareness to the population, is a way to reach more people and more age groups.
Ricardo makes sure Nina is well prepared for their cleaning adventures, bringing her to swimming lessons where she's trained in diving and floating.
Nina is the breaking point for love, for empathy, while seeing that our attitude today will define the inheritance we will leave the generations that are being born.
Ricardo says he's always been inspired by his daughter and future generations, reflected in both his filmmaking and his founding the Urban Sea Institute, or Instituto Mar Urbano. Urbano. Nina Gomez, the littlest environmentalist, sets an example for us all.
Dogs often make up the heart and soul of animal-friendly films. Now, some canine actors are becoming stars in the Czech Republic, surrounding the debut of a film about pet abuse. Here's more.
Four-legged stars ruled the red carpet at a Czech film premiere on Wednesday. The new movie is based on a popular book about abused dogs known as Gump, the dog that taught people to live. According to the author, inspiration struck when he was working for a dog rescue organization.
During my work for the organization, I was very emotional. I heard a lot of stories about dog rescue operations, and one day I decided to start writing them all up.
The book landed among the 50 most read books in the Czech Republic in 2020, with 140,000 copies sold. The film director says the challenge of presenting dogs' emotions on screen drew him to the project.
I think that passing on emotions, both human and animal emotions, is incredibly important. Emotions always work. They're just like love, or at least I believe so.
The entire Gump project aims to raise awareness for the mistreatment of dogs. Proceeds have also raised money for a new animal shelter set to open in September.
I have 3 dogs rescued from shelters at home, and I'd like for all dogs to do just as well. This is a great idea.
The film also stars several top Czech actors. It was originally set to release in late 2020, but was delayed by the pandemic.
A bar in London is slinging up mocktails for dogs. The pets are brought along by their owners looking to wet their own whistles. NTD's Andrew Thomas reports.
After Bark opened in June and is the latest venture from the Barkney Wick Dog and Human Community Center. Founder Jamie Swan says she believes the pet-friendly bar's menu of cocktails and shareable snacks is unique.
We find that when you present dogs, even the most fussy dogs, with things in a fun way, then they're inclined to eat or drink them, especially if they have their pup pals around and they're all doing it.
The dog drinks skip the booze, but pooches can enjoy the Halapaw Sling, made from raw carrot juice, or the Great Expaller, a tray full of shots of apple and raw beet juices. Owners and their pets can also share lick and mix treats made without sugar and salt.
Well, actually, so we're fully plant-based here, and that's not to say that we think that all dogs should be fully plant-based, but we do think that dogs don't get enough fibre in their diet. So our menu in the cafe and also in the bar is very much plant-based for dogs as well as for humans.
On Thursday evening, many After Bark customers were new pet owners who had adopted during lockdown.
I have never been to anywhere like this before. The fact that snacks are allowed to be eaten by both dogs and humans is like, well, we share our food anyway, but yeah, I absolutely like it. And the caipirinhas are delicious.
For those who think bringing their dogs to the bar is too much, the center also offers dog daycare services and a cafe in the daytime until the doors to After Bark open. Andrew Thomas, NTD News.
Team USA Olympic officials are cautiously optimistic on U.S. success in the Tokyo Olympics. They recognize the pandemic's disruption to training. More on that in just a moment. The United States is once again expected to top all countries in medals at the Summer Olympics. But Team USA officials hold uncertainties because of virus pandemic disruptions.
It has been an incredible journey for not only Team USA's athletes, but for athletes all around the world. If you think about the postponement, which essentially halted the training that these athletes were in the midst of, to the retraining, to beginning to compete again, if you could compete at all, to the selection, to the Olympic trials, and ultimately here as we sit here just before opening ceremony.
The vast majority of the team has filled out health histories, and within that, we do ask vaccination status. And as of today, it's 83%. And so that is just athletes. It is not staff, because we don't collect private health information from staff members.
Medal predictions for the Tokyo Games have been tricky, with the virus pandemic wiping out many of the pre-Olympic events that could have been used to predict Olympics performance. But Olympics officials are still optimistic and confident that the USA will bring home a lot of medals, even though they gave no specific medal count prediction. The United States is sending a team of 613 athletes to Tokyo. It's the nation's second largest delegation ever for an Olympics. The World Anti-Doping Agency, also known as WADA, will be forced to watch as Russian athletes don uniforms in their country's colors of red, white, and blue and compete at the Tokyo Olympics, having received lessened sanctions over the nation's doping scandals.
WADA had originally banned Russia from the world's top sporting events for 4 years in December 2019. But the sanctions were halved late last year by the Court of Arbitration for Sport, or CAS, in a clear victory for Russia. While the Russians are still not allowed to compete under their own flag, name or anthem, they can wear red, white and blue uniforms, despite WADA requesting they wear neutral colours, as they did at the Pyeongchang 2018 Winter Games.
We never asked for Russian athletes not to be allowed to come to the Games. What we don't want is athletes who were involved in the scandal to be here. And we don't want, we didn't want the flags and so on. We asked for neutral colors. That was our request. CAS decided that they could have the colors, not the flag, but they could have the colors.
The new uniforms feature the logo of the Russian Olympic Committee and the letters ROC. They're almost indistinguishable from past Russian uniforms. Many Russian athletes were sidelined from the past 2 Olympics as punishment for state-sponsored doping at the 2014 Sochi Games.
Many parents and guardians share concerns over their children's use of smartphones. It can cause a variety of issues, and poor sleep hygiene is one of them.
Welcome to Strong Mind and Body, I'm Gina Marie. Middle schoolers who spend time on laptops, smartphones and tablets in the hour before bed are likely to sleep poorly. A new study shows that they may be more tired the next day. Researchers looked at the effects of screen time at bedtime among 345 children aged 12 to 14. They found that spending time on media devices before going to bed disrupted sleep. It also had a bidirectional effect, such that poor sleep led to more bedtime media use. Access to devices was pervasive, with nearly 3 out of 4 7th and 8th graders taking part in the study reporting exclusive access to a smartphone. It's tricky for parents to navigate due to peer pressure. Adolescents with access to media devices in the bedroom are more likely to engage in bedtime media use. The study found that these can have a negative impact on their sleep and health. The time spent scrolling or texting takes the place of time that otherwise might have been spent sleeping. Watching videos or playing games might also overstimulate young brains when they should be winding down. The blue light of the devices is also an issue. During the day, students who reported bedtime media use experienced more sleepiness and struggled to maintain attention. The National Sleep Foundation and the American Academy of Pediatrics recommended eliminating screen time in the hour before going to bed. It helps to establish ground rules for logging on or using a phone and keeping media devices outside of bedrooms. Parents can also model healthy behaviors when it comes to using their smartphone or laptop, as well as sleep hygiene. Sleep plays a crucial role at a young age. The potential long-term effects of poor sleep are wide-ranging. It can contribute to conditions such as chronic inflammation and obesity, among others. Understanding how modern, interactive forms of media can affect adolescent health and behavior continues to be an important area of research.
Thanks for watching. At NTD, we're honored to be your source for the news. Catch us again tonight at 6:30 Eastern. In New York City, I'm Kevin Hogan.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens